John McGee. And with further ado, I'm going to actually move to the podium tonight
Terrific.
for my presentation.
Which brings us to presentation discussion 1, item 5.01, the mid-year report of the superintendent. Can't believe we're already at the middle of the year.
I cannot believe it as well. So let's find a place for that so I don't knock it over in the middle of the presentation. So good evening again. Thank you all for coming. Just to talk through the sort of process I'll go through tonight, and I will try to be succinct, but it's hard to be succinct sharing the information gathered in 240 or so entry interviews and 6.5 months of prowling around the district and overturning as many stones as possible. So essentially what we'll be speaking to is talking about my entry interviews. And I asked lots of different questions in the entry interview process, and many of you have sat for those entry interviews. So I've asked about expectations, I've asked about challenges, I've asked about opportunities for growth and improvement, and areas of focus to meet those expectations. But I'd like to begin by sharing a few critically important points that I've been hearing over and over again. We have wonderful students. We have a dedicated faculty, administration, and staff, and we have an incredibly supportive community and Board of Education. And I will tell you that I have heard those in the 240 or so interviews that I've conducted since last June, or before last June, when I started meeting with the Board of Education and the administrators, that those 3 points have been made countless times, and it's important to hear that. I do want to, I didn't know he was going to be here tonight, but I have to thank Jamie Zung because, as you'll see on the numbers, I've met with 124 teachers, although that's higher because I've met with 3 more teachers this week, and that's partly because Jamie has told everybody to sit for an entry interview with me. So Jamie, thank you. I really appreciate that. But thanks to all of the folks in the community for taking the time to meet with me, and if you're still interested, as Jamie will attest, I am available. Just reach out to my office and my assistant will set up an appointment for an entry interview. I do them at all times of day. I do them in groups. I even travel to go to places to have them, not into Manhattan, but to schools, to departments, to different spots in the community. And just so you know, each interview tends to run from about 45 to 60 minutes. Unless you're one of the special people and it runs 3 or 4 sessions over a number of weeks. You all who have been there know who you are. I've included in this the municipal officials, the elected officials we've met with, the parent coffees for all 5 schools with the Raise Executive Board, the Working Parents Group, and then all the different groups. Community organizations being from the preschools to the houses of worship. I did forget to put my visit to Sunday at Rye Presbyterian, and I spoke to a group there. But it's really trying to get to know the Rye community as best as I possibly can. So one question that I asked in every single entry interview is, what are your expectations for me as your superintendent? And so while I'm not certainly going to read everything, but the list is reporting out what people have shared to me. People have talked about having and bringing a cohesive vision, a clear sense of purpose, really focusing on curriculum and instruction, and not keeping the status quo. And you'll see not keeping the status quo a few times throughout the presentation because I have heard that repeatedly. Being visible and present in the schools and in the community. So from being things at the Halloween window painting to the sports events to being in classrooms, getting to know teachers and kids and the work that they're doing every day, the really important and really good work that they're doing every day. People want me to be funny like Brian Monahan was. It's just not happening like that. I've asked for tips from Brian. My funny is situational, like on the first day of school when a guy comes and tells me he's going to tow all the teachers' cars just as we're about to start opening day. But I try. I have been asked to bring a sense of calm, and I've been told that that is the case. I am a very calm person. That wasn't always the case. I've worked really hard at that. I used to be quite excitable. and quite reactive, which I was told not to be, but to be proactive and have a backbone. And I know that this has been hard in both my position and in Sherry's position as assistant superintendent, staying for a while and making a commitment to RIE. And I am absolutely making a commitment to RIE because I think we've got a lot of great things here already to build on and a lot of great things ahead of us. And so we're very deliberate in what we're doing, and the decisions we're making and the work that we're doing is for the long haul and is very thoughtful and strategic. More expectations, recognizing and addressing issues of trust. Trust issues come for a variety of reasons, but being honest, fair, and taking that challenge on and trying to help us as a system and as a community move past that. Communicate. Listening as probably the most important part of communication, which sometimes gets left off the process. Thinking about the culture and thinking about how we can change the culture and move it forward and become a culture where we are committed to continual improvement and iteration and growth. Looking at our systems and structures that exist and those that are just not working, disruption, changing them, and putting in place things that aren't in existence and where we need new structures. Taking a close look at facilities and space. So clearly, I'm going to leave that to these guys. But helping RIE more than anything else, and I heard this so many times, people want us to be the educational leader in the country that we should be, can be, and will be, and to put us at the cutting edge of what's happening instructionally in every way we possibly can. Further expectations, working closely with the Board of Education, keeping them focused on the important work that they are required to do and they need to do. And I will tell you, and we'll get to this a little bit later, but to me, the most important thing that our board has done in the last 7 months is what's hanging on the wall there, and their commitment to the community, to our students, to our faculty, staff, and administration, and to the families. Lessening competition, becoming a more collaborative system with 5 schools that are working together, heading in the same direction, and not schools that are fiefdoms or islands in a community and not seemingly connected as they should be. Bridging the gap between teachers and administrators, being inclusive, more opportunities for many people to become involved in planning and committees and the direction that we're heading, getting to know the staff and helping to improve morale, and really addressing issues of teacher compensation that have been areas of concern for the past number of years. And finally, and I put 2 of these on their own page because they really are about the community. One, which I've talked about in the past, is helping RIE, the city of RIE, to become a more inclusive community by eliminating any barriers or any stigmas around special education and helping us and the town as a whole, the city as a whole, and all of our community to be rid of that and become more inclusive, and to build community support for our schools and collaborate with community organizations. So another question that I posed was, what are the most important challenges facing the district today? And some of these things are directly clear. You can see them in the expectations that folks have for me. Issues around technology, which I will not take any credit for that because a great plan was put in place and was well on its way before I arrived here. And there was lots of recognition that while we had been behind in technology, it's gotten so much better with the work of the administrative team, with Gabby and Caitlin, the commitment of funding from the board. Again, the challenge of trust. You know, when trust has been broken, it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes a lot of work to build that up. And that's something that we need to focus on. High quality, meaningful professional development. I've talked a lot about professional development since I arrived here with all of you. I talked a lot about professional development before I even got here. And for those of us sitting on the administrative side of things, professional development is the job that we need to be focused on. We need to be giving our teachers the tools, the support, and the training that they need to deliver the programs that our kids deserve and our families desire. And we can do that. We just have to make that commitment as we have. Thinking really carefully about the social and emotional health of our kids. One of the great challenges that I have heard, and I don't think there's a single person that has not raised this, in a single entry interview of all of them that I've done, the concern about stress, pressure, the alcohol and drug use among our kids, the culture of drinking in the community, the relationship between that, and the concerns that people have about the well-being of our kids and what we need to do to focus on that. The challenges of the tax cap and finance issues that we have to address are on everybody's mind. There's a lot of concern when we connect to the social and emotional health of our kids and the stress and pressure of the intense AP culture and the focus on getting the right grades, getting the perfect transcript, and getting into one of the 21 colleges that everybody thinks have to be the colleges that you go to. Managing parent expectations, communicating with parents, the community, and within the school system. Our communication issues were not just with us sharing information with all of the community about what's happening with the schools, but also within our own colleagues, within the administrative team, within the teachers, is being out front, being honest, being transparent, and sharing information. Additional challenges, the lack of a cohesive vision for teaching and learning. Teachers that are discontented about a lack of direction and the issues that we're facing. The parents clamoring for more understanding about what we're doing instructionally and how they can support things at home, and asking us to, or challenging us to do something about that and help them to understand. When we're talking about a reading and writing workshop, what does that mean? I know as a parent, one of the most challenging things I've ever faced is trying to work with my child on mathematics in a way that is completely foreign to me, because in the 1970s, after we got past the metric debacle, we learned math in a totally different way, and parents need that support from us, and that's a challenge we have going forward. Addressing the needs of our special education students and providing a wide range of opportunities so that the programs we deliver match the needs of our community. And convincing parents, and I've heard this, and I've also heard from parents convincing teachers that the world has changed and so must the Rye schools. There are wonderful traditions that exist here in Rye, and there's a storied history of this school system, but we're in a new day and we have new areas to launch to as a system, and we can get there. The challenge of our facilities, we'll speak more to that a little bit later, and trying to be as progressive as we should be as a system and leading the way in our area and in the country in innovative instruction. So another question I asked is, what do you see as the most promising opportunities for growth and improvement? And I asked the same questions to everyone. So parents got to weigh in on this, teachers got to weigh in on this. So I heard things about the use of technology and improving access. I heard over and over again about the quality of professional development and making more meaningful opportunities for learning for all, for our clerical staff, for our support staff, for our custodial staff, for everyone, that are focused on giving people the skills and the training to do their jobs the best they can. To broaden the instructional program beyond the AP and be thinking about what is rigorous and how do we create rigor and opportunities for kids in the middle and create more inclusive opportunities for special education students. Improving our facilities, implementing 21st century teaching, starting to jump into the world of STEAM and thinking about what that looks like for our system and our community. Improving cultures and focusing on the mathematics curriculum and instruction at the elementary level. I've heard time and time again that one of the opportunities, and there's a lot of energy around this right now, so I'm pretty excited about the work that's happening, is improving scheduling. We ask teachers, and it goes back to our work as administrators, we ask teachers to deliver programs, and we ask them to deliver programs with the materials we give them, the training we give them, and we ask them to do them in certain constraints. And right now, at our secondary level, We ask them to do it in 40 minutes, flat. And I've heard that that's a challenge to our teachers. And so looking at ways to improve scheduling at the secondary level, but looking at ways for our elementary folks who are challenged by not having lots of time with all of their kids together in the classroom, because we have incredible opportunities available, but there's a little bit of choppiness with kids coming in and out and classes coming in and out. Really thinking about our teachers and providing opportunities for them to become leaders in our community and leaders in our school system. Improving our systems that exist so that things happen efficiently, things happen fluidly, and things happen the way they're supposed to. And finding new ways for the community and our teachers and our administrators and staff to collaborate. So the next piece, I'm just going to sort of talk about how and what I've been focusing on to try and meet these expectations and address some of the areas of need and take advantage of some of these opportunities for growth and improvement. So when we think about vision and purpose, I cannot think of a more comprehensive, a more clear, and a more important statement than the RIE commitment. And if you haven't had a chance to dive into that, I urge you to do that. And in the coming months, we will be getting more information out. We will have displays in the buildings with the RIE commitment. Because to me, when our Board of Education does the hard work in the study and the planning and puts out very really strong statements like you did, I think that helps us move in a direction and galvanize our work and start to create that vision and sense of purpose. And we will continue to build on that. In thinking about relationships and building those with people, certainly the entry process, a big part of that is working to build relationships. But it's visiting, it's spending time talking with people. I had a chance today to sit with an English teacher here at the high school and talk about a film that I mentioned 3 months ago to him, and he wanted to talk more about it because he saw a direct connection with his teaching. That's what building relationships is all about. That's what, for me, if I'm not building relationships that are based on our instructional program and where we're going, then the relationships aren't valued. It's not important enough. Gaining an understanding, I mean, I've been here at 6:30 in the morning talking to Angelo on the phone with him at 4:30 in the morning to understand what they're doing on the ground when we're trying to get schools open, trying to figure out how all things work, being in every space we have, the only space, and Gabby keeps telling me she's going to take me. I have not been to the pump house. I'm ready to go to the pump house. You cleaned it out. I'm ready to go to the pump house. But I've been under the stadium. I have been up in the attics. I have been down in the boiler. I met the beautiful Osborne boiler that's brand new. I talked to it. It didn't talk back. Identifying immediate needs and long-term needs. So, we looked at some immediate needs. One is looking at how are we supporting teachers in technology. I was hearing that over and over again. We had an opportunity to restructure a position. And so we took budget funding that we had, 2 positions that we had, and we created an instructional technology specialist who will be working side by side with teachers in classroom, providing the support for them to implement technology in effective ways in the classroom. And we're thrilled that Christy will begin that position next week, I think, is when she starts that job. We're looking at our professional development, and we put some new professional development structures in place, but we want to be able to say that these things are helping our teachers, and these things are responsive to our teachers' needs. So Sherry worked in implementing an assessment protocol called the Concerns-Based Adoption Model, and looking at the stages of concern for teachers in how they're doing implementing the reading and writing workshop, and how is that support that we're providing from Teachers College helping them and enabling us to evaluate as we go, what do we need to adjust, what do we need to improve, and then we're going to go back with that same survey at the end of the year, redo the survey with folks and see how they're feeling and whether or not what we provided them throughout the year is helping them to deliver the program successfully. We created a new position that we're in the process of filling, the secondary supervisor of special education. There was an immediate need we saw within the secondary program for support for teachers, for transitional support for families, and for work with our neediest students at the secondary level. And so again, through a lot of close examination and reallocation of support, we created a position, and we're in the process of doing that. We've been working closely with food service. We know that we've had challenges with food service, but we've been committed to being in the cafeterias, being on top of the situation, and working closely to make sure that the food service is providing what we expect, or if it's not, making the decisions necessary to move forward so that we get what we're expecting. We had an unexpected position open up when Sam Carter left us, and so we identified an immediate need. We looked carefully at what the facilities director provides for us. We talked about what we would like that position to be, and we went out and we conducted a search. And here at his first official board meeting is our new facilities director, Dennis Rankin. And Dennis has been out in the buildings. One of the first things we asked him to do, and when we recreated the position and began the search, is we want our facilities director with experience in schools to address safety and issues around health and safety in the buildings. And Dennis has been doing just that as his top item since he got here. We've been focusing on building partnerships beyond RIE. We brought Chris Deedy from Harvard University to the community. We continue to talk with Chris and annoy him so that we can participate in the research going forward. And it's those kind of partnerships that are really going to help us move forward as a system. We are in the process of establishing, it's my alma mater, I have a soft spot for Fordham, a formal partnership with Fordham in a variety of ways, for conducting research, for providing professional development, and for providing a large number of interns, or a good number of interns, to help us in training teachers, for pre-service teachers, but providing support in our classrooms and helping us to address the regional shortage in substitute teachers. So while we don't have that set yet, we're moving along so that partnership will be in place. We've re-engaged with the Tri-State Consortium as an associate member, and Dr. Edwards and I have been participating in different Tri-State Consortium activities. And the consortium is a collection of, at last count, was 48 school districts, all quite similar to RIE, that rely on each other as critical friends. And it's a great professional organization to help schools look at their programs, look at their practices, get feedback from colleagues in a non-judgmental way, and have critical friends that are out there. We've built a great partnership with the Teachers College Reading and Writing Project at Columbia University, and that's a long-term commitment of ours to support our teachers, and our teachers are taking full advantage of the support from TC. We've been reaching out to neighboring districts. Just this week, we had another cohort of teachers head to PS 158 on the Upper East Side of Manhattan because they have an incredible model of workshop where we can see the reading and writing workshop 15 years after they started the work and what it looks like today. And on Monday, Sherry joined a group, and they were looking specifically at co-teaching for students with special education needs and co-teaching for students who are English as a new language. And that was the focus of that visit on Monday. Jim Boylan set up a visit today to visit West Orchard School up at Chappaqua to look at a school district that's also deep into the workshop. We had a group go up last week to look at Mayapacket, how they're using space and what they're doing around active learning. And that was a group from Midland and some districts folks that have been studying active learning. We've probably worn out our welcome in Chappaqua, my old friends. I was told that the superintendent wants to know whenever there are visitors anymore, and she has to approve them. But we just set up that last one without telling anybody. And Sherry's had people farmed out all over the county looking at different math programs. And we've had people up in Katona, we've had people down in Bronxville, we've had people up in Chappaqua, and I'm probably missing 100 other places. But, you know, we can't be insular. We need to reach out to our friends and our neighbors and our partners around the region and professional organizations and get that help. We've looked carefully and identified some immediate needs and sought to address instructional needs right out of the gate. I've asked, and they've begun the work of the Special Education Task Force, and they have a very specific purpose to give me recommendations on how we can best improve our opportunities for students with special needs. It's a great group. I was there for most of the first meeting. we've got teachers, we've got parents, we've got administrators. We even have people who aren't on the committee that were so excited by it that they just wanted to come and sit and watch. And we filled up our brand-new conference room at the new CAB offices. We added an E&L position because we had the need. So we're not waiting to say you have to fix things. When we have a need, we're addressing it as best we can in the ways that we can. We've worked to codify our communication, focusing on transparency, on clarity, and simplicity, although the music at the end of the snow messages, while not simple to get it, I think is an important way of showing the wonder of our kids and their voices. We've presented relevant information to the community and the board at our meetings. You know, meetings can be boring, but meetings can be really exciting when you're hearing about cool stuff. And so we set out an agenda earlier in the year, and while it's not where we'd like it to be yet, I say yet a lot, we've had some great presentations on professional development, on curriculum, on work that we're doing, and there'll be more of those to come. We've been working to develop a comprehensive communication plan with the Board of Education Communications Committee, and I think we're meeting again this week or next week, but really talking about what is it that we're doing and the deliberate moves that we're making for internal and external communication, and naming the processes and the things that we're going to do so that communication no longer is something that people come up to me and say, this is a challenge of ours, this is something you need to fix. We've been working to evaluate the facilities in the space we'll hear more about. And I've been as visible, short of my wife disowning me, I can't imagine being much more visible, and I drag her to a lot of things. Just so you know, in terms of my schedule, I had a superintendent of another district in Westchester who's also new in the position, said to me, do you ever get to classrooms and out in the schools? And I said, absolutely, because a minimum of 3 mornings a week are dedicated in my schedule for time in schools. So today, I was here at the middle school and the high school. And I just wander around, and some of my colleagues here will tell you that. I just wander around, or I have a scheduled time with the principal, and we have a couple of hours where we're meeting, then we're visiting, then we're meeting again. Because if I'm not in schools, I don't know where we should be heading. I'm in classrooms when I'm going to schools. I'm not sitting in principals' offices chatting with them. I want to see what the kids are doing. I want to get to know our teachers. I want to get to know what they need and what they desire to do their job the best they can. I try to get to as many school events as possible, as many athletic events as possible, as many community events as possible, and PO and PTO events. It's been a great couple months and an exciting couple months of getting to know the community through those different venues. And we've looked at the administrative structure and processes that exist in the district and thinking about what we can do better. We looked immediately that we needed more clerical support at Milton. So again, through reallocation and careful planning, we were able to make that happen so that we had a second clerical person at Milton. We looked at the way we address areas of concern in Title IX, and we felt it appropriate to add a third Title IX officer, and the board recently appointed Elaine to be a third Title IX officer. We've looked carefully, Gabby and I have spent countless hours on the budget development process, analyzing what we're doing now and the way we do it, and adding some changes, minor changes this year, but talking about how we can improve and get those better for next year. So we've had our traditional budget process thus far, and then I show up in people's offices with lots of questions, and we roll up our sleeves and we get deeper into it. And that's something that as we go into the budget development process next year, it will look quite different based on what we've learned this year and what we've analyzed. We've been working together both with our Teachers Association and our Administrators Association in planning for our contract negotiations and really working on that collaboration and that process so that we have a fair process that gets us to where we need to be as a system. And as you know, as the board, we worked over a period of months to develop a comprehensive evaluation process for me as your new superintendent of schools. I'd like to just share some things because part of my entry process was reaching out to every senior in the high school over the summer and asking them to tell me their story and tell me how Rye has impacted them as a person. And kids were given the opportunity to write me an email, to write a piece and share it with me, to do artwork. I got some songs, I got some artwork, I got some essays, I got some emails. Well, I didn't get a ton. The ones I got were really powerful, and I feel it's important for me to share some of those with you. And they're honest, and that's why I asked the kids. And I told them that at some point I would be sharing these things. So I have a couple of snippets that I'd like to share, and I'm not just sharing the good things. And those of you who have started to get to know me, I'm not just going to tell you the good things, and the board knows I am going to bring up the areas of concern, and we're going to talk about them. So here we go. Rye High has taught me how to live in an ultra-competitive environment where competing with your peers is the path to a successful future, college. Only here could a B be a cause for serious concern. Of course, there are hugely positive activities at the high school, like the cross-country and track teams, as well as the orchestra. Yet high school remains a mixed bag. I've learned an astonishing amount and accomplished much academically, but have also endured years of stress to raise my GPA a few points. While I've grown more discerning and intelligent, as well as found myself intellectually, high school has imbued me within a deep set of cynicism. Despite this, I'm grateful for the way the school has shaped me intellectually, and I know that there's more time left here for personal growth. Another student says, I've been very bitter towards Rye High School for, let's say, a majority of my 4 years. I'm going to be honest with you. The high intensity created a type of pressure that I, as a terrified 14-year-old, did not cope too well with. I, along with many of my peers, struggled to find self-worth in my own abilities because every other student seemed to be doing something that I wasn't. I constantly felt a paranoia for my future that I kept bottled up, afraid that I would be labeled as whiny or annoying. The student body reminded me of how closed-minded privileged teens could be, the kind that would not lift a finger to help others unless it meant they could put it on their transcript, of course. The obsession of getting into college seeped into every crack of the building, every student constantly in worry about their future and never really taking time to be 17. Each student, in their conscious mind or not, pitted against each other, secretly wanting to have a student be denied to their own top choice. Undoubtedly, Rye is an incredibly stressful pressure cooker school, fostering brilliant students who know calculus, yet can't figure out how to navigate a subway system. These wonderful teachers and administrators, this is a new student, recognized that I was not stupid, like I often feel, that I just needed to express myself differently or have the material presented in a non-traditional way. I never thought I would be applying to college, but I just finished my essay and I'm working on my applications. I'm applying to schools to be a major in musical theater. Rye has taught me hard work, perseverance, resiliency, and yes, sometimes failure are necessary for personal success. It's been a long journey from kindergarten to senior year, and not an easy one, but it's been my journey and made me who I am today. And I'd like to close the student pieces with this last one. I can say that the way the school has helped me become who I am is by allowing me to be who I am. With the Gateway program, the theater program, the arts, and ASL, I may be poor at reading, writing, listening, and focusing, but with the help I was given, I firmly believe that I and many others to come will be able to bring truly beautiful things into this world. Thank you. So in closing, what I'd like to say is that we are in a great position. There's incredible energy and passion in this community. We're in a great position to build from strength. The strength of a wonderful student body, the strength of a dedicated faculty, staff, and administration, and the strength of a committed, supportive community and Board of Education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Byrne. There was a lot in there. Does anyone on the board have any questions or comments they'd like to make at this time before we open the floor to the public for questions or comments? Do you want to go ahead? Go ahead, Cal.
That is a lot, and I have the benefit of, seeing kind of day to day, but when you see it in sum total, what you all do every day, it's really, wow.
Can you move your mic
Oh,
closer?
I'm sorry. Wow,
Thanks.
it's amazing. So thank you, all of you. One of the questions I've gotten is about the time frame, because it is a lot, and, there's clearly different buckets of things and topics of things, but how do you think about, the time frame and the things that are prioritized?
So I think of it in a few ways. And I do think that by the time I come back with the end of year one report, I will have a better handle on that. One of the things they sort of are supposed to teach you in administrative school is you don't make any change for the first year when you go someplace. But often you don't have the ability to not make change. So what we tried to do is the changes we've made and the things we put in place are things that are essential, and there's immediate desire to move in that direction. But we also have to be very strategic, and we have to manage the change process. So it's something that the four of us spend a lot of time thinking about that change process, and we want change that's going to stick. So our PO and PTO leadership will tell you, because I meet with them monthly, that I often say, we're going to take it slow, and we're going to do it right. But by the end of the year, when I come back to you with my report, I will have more of a time frame of where things are going. But I will say that we're not doing things just to do things. We're not making changes just to make change. We're making changes to make a difference, and we're making the difference to stick in our system. And so we will make those changes in a rational way, in an orderly way, and we'll reflect upon them and assess them to make sure that we're on the right path. We'll ask lots of people and talk to people about how it's going, and we'll make course corrections as possible. But there are immediate things I could tell you about. One of our elementary principals calling me yesterday and say, I just saw the greatest writing lesson. Or Sherry coming back after being out in the building today, observing a teacher and saying, it was great. And those are immediate changes that we're seeing. And frankly, those two conversations, they happen because of the professional development work and the work that teacher has put in and committed to learning and growing, but the supports that have been put in place. So we're going to do this right. And part of it is we're going to be taking some things away, because there's nothing worse than initiative overload. And anyone that's been in a classroom knows what that's like. And, there are things that teachers may be doing that we're going to work with them and help them understand that maybe you don't need to do that anymore, and this is why. This is the research behind why we're going to throw this thing out and either replace it or not replace it and give more time to the other things that we need to work on. So it wasn't a direct answer, but it's definitely part of a process.
Karen?
I just wanted to say, this has caused me to reflect a little bit too, sitting there and listening to you, and particularly some of the powerful stuff that comes out of the high school students. I think when we as a board were looking to hire a new superintendent last year, we were very much in the mode of trying to find somebody with an educational vision, which I think you've absolutely brought. But it really occurred to me, and now I'm going to look at that feedback or the superintendent evaluation form and make sure we've made it very clear in that, that in addition to the vision is what I heard a lot of was a lot of reaching out and learning on your part. And I heard a lot about the feedback loops that you as a team are trying to put in place within the district. And so we will take a look at our feedback loop of the superintendent evaluation as well and make sure that sort of thing is reflected. But I think that makes it clear that that's the kind of process that I think we were all hoping to see come out of this. So thank you.
I was just going to say that I'm amazed, and we meet weekly. Karen and I, as the board officers, meet weekly with Eric and hear about what's going on, and we as a board have discussions every 2 weeks when we get together. But I'm amazed when it's all in one place about how much work you all have done already this year in initiating some responses to some immediate needs, and that is really terrific. So it was fantastic to hear about it in one report, and I understand and appreciate, as you've mentioned, that you're doing it and you're doing it as a team, and we really, really appreciate
And
that.
it's a blessing to have the team that I'm here with, especially these folks who I spend most of my time with, but the teachers out there that, I bumped into a teacher in the science wing today who I visited her classroom quite a few times and worked with the kids and talked with the kids and been a part of her lessons. And, that is powerful. That's powerful teamwork and support. And I'm so appreciative to not just the three folks to my right, but to my administrative colleagues out in the building for their nurturing and education of me, and their feedback. Because I know these guys here, I ask for their feedback all the time from, meetings, how to go, what did you think, to conversations and things like that. So it's a blessing, and I appreciate that, and all of these great folks.
And it's a remarkable number of people that you've met with. And yeah, I mean, you were talking about sort of a 6.5-month period, but I think it's important to note that to me, and I'm sure to the rest of the board, it feels more like an 11 to 12-month period, because these conversations did start from the very first time that we met. And then before you actually came to work here on July 1st, you were already working here sometimes, which was quite remarkable. And you'd really delved into beginning the process of learning. So it's amazing to see it accelerate like this, and it's amazing to see it captured like this in a report. I feel like it's an exciting moment, and I think that the community is responding and feels the same way. So I'm really appreciative of your report tonight. Does anyone else on the board have